good evening. Welcome to Orion Today. I'm your host, Tony Cook, and I'm here today with Reverend Dale Bishop, who's our guest with the Youth for Christ Ministries. Welcome. Appreciate you coming out today.
Great. Thanks, Tony.
All right. Just want to start off with a couple quick questions. Now, is it appropriate to call you Reverend, or should I call you Pastor?
Call me Dale, please.
Dale? Okay. All right, Dale. Dale, I wanted to know the organization that you're with. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how it was formed?
Sure. Back in the late 1930s, a group of businessmen and ministers got together, and they could see that young people needed some extra directions and some extra activities, and there was even something going on of delinquency with youth, and so they created an organization called Voice of Christian Youth. And interesting enough, throughout the country, other organizations were being formed. In Flint, Michigan, it was called Victorious Christian Youth. In Kansas City, it was called Singspiration. In Chicago, it was called Youth for Christ. And so in 1944, Dr. Torrey Johnson had been hearing about all the different things that were taking place across the country and this movement that was taking place, and they decided to consolidate and become under one name, Youth for Christ, and they became Youth for Christ International, and they hired their first international staff, who was Dr. Billy Graham.
Wow, wow. So that's quite a long history there. Now, in terms of coming together with the name itself, do you know why they chose Youth for Christ specifically?
Well, I think it sort of capsulized really what the whole movement, we really realize that young people are made complete and made whole when they have purpose and they can know that they're loved, and God is love, and so Christ is a central figure of that. So Youth for Christ sort of says our mission all in one.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Now, like anything, there's an opportunity where at some point where you became involved. Now, did you become involved as an adult, or was it at some point prior to that?
Well, my cousin started an aspect of Youth for Christ called Youth Guidance or Lifeline back in the very early 60s, and that was a work with troubled teenagers. And I was growing up in a family that was having some difficulties and troubles. I had a brother that was older who got involved with some legal issues and ended up serving a couple of prison terms, and a sister who was having some difficulties, and so just throughout, and personally had some difficulties myself. And my cousin sort of saw that I needed some rescuing, and so he invited me to go during the summertime to the Youth for Christ camp, and it was at the camp that they put me in a position as a junior counselor. And the young people that were there came from Don Bosco, Todd Phillips, Wayne County Youth Home. So a lot of troubled young people and kids from the streets. So I just got an opportunity to meet people. I guess if I didn't know any better, I probably would have been scared. But they become great friends, and we developed great relationships. And the thing that really made changes in our lives was that relationship, hearing that God loved us and that He had a plan for us.
Okay. And I'm just really curious, around what, if without giving too much away, what year would that have been that you first went to?
In 1965 is when I started as a just going into my teen years.
Okay, so in terms of the organization and bringing, it was fairly diverse, would you say?
Yes.
Okay, and so as a result of that, that kind of broke down some barriers for you at that time period, I would assume.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, yes.
Okay, so when you were there for the first year in '65, then you well, obviously you had some leadership traits because they chose you as a junior counselor right off the bat. What happened with your involvement from that point on? Well,
by the time I got into high school, Youth for Christ had Campus Life, which was a school-based ministry. Sometimes it looked like Bible clubs, sometimes it was prayer groups. And at our school, we started a prayer group, and I was in one of the first of the young people that started that together. And so in about 1969, we started meeting every morning, and we would have prayer, and we would be encouraging each other and trying to just talk through issues that kids would be going through. And we had a couple of adult sponsors that gave us some direction.
Wow, so that's 4 years in now.
Yes.
That you're into the organization. And so with those adults that were there to kind of mentor you on, was there a particular one or a particular reason that inspired you to continue with the organization?
Well, you know, I think hope was probably one of the things that was encouraging to me, and the sense of value, the sense of love. I guess, I didn't have a real good self-esteem. I felt somewhat unloved, I guess, growing up, maybe lost within the shuffle of life. And when I started hearing about the hope that the gospel of Christ, that He came and sought me out, and that He loved me, and that out of that love, I could love other people. I didn't have a problem with that thought, but that personal relationship, when that sort of hit me, and it hit me at a camp, then I decided I really wanted to follow what the Scriptures taught. I wanted to make that real for my life, and to try to serve and be like the one who loved me.
Wow. So let's fast forward a little bit to where you're going, and you've got the bug, so to speak. You recognize the Christ within yourself. Now, how did you begin to become involved as an adult and in the latter years?
Well, right after graduation, went from graduation right out to the camp again. And now by this time I was now a little more than just a counselor at camp. I was one of the administrators helping to run the camp also, and plugged in as counselor as needed. And I started college at Detroit Bible College right in the fall of that year. And had the opportunity, was asked if I would like to come on full-time staff. And so I was thrilled with that concept. And so I worked full-time, and I went through college, and that was sort of how that started. I was assigned an area downtown by the old Tiger Stadium.
Trumbull, right?
Right, Trumbull.
Yeah.
And in fact, our center, my first office, was on the corner of Martin Luther King, which was called Myrtle at those days, and 12th Street, which was today Rosa Parks Boulevard. And just a few blocks down from where the riot started.
Gotcha. Okay. So you've kind of gone through and you've seen some changes that went on, but more importantly, when you look at not only those changes that you've seen physically to the city, how does that relate to some of the changes that you might have seen in some of the teens that you've worked with? And if you can give us an example without names, of course, to see how Christ has worked through them, you rather.
A lot of my ministry has always been to at-risk young people. That was sort of my passion that God put on my heart. I guess I could relate in some small ways of having some troubled background and some thought processes and perceptions that were wrong, but I based my beliefs on those wrong perceptions. And I could just see that other young people were struggling with those same things. And so in Detroit, a lot of our young people were really struggling with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and they've been seeing so much violence and so many things. I don't even remember all the funerals and the gang slayings and the things that we've been exposed to over the years, and the kids have had to carry. And they had no outlets really. And a lot of our young people didn't even go from childhood into adulthood. They skipped childhood almost entirely. And responsibilities at home, the family breakdowns, the responsibilities that are put on young people. There were just a lot. And sometimes they just need someone to talk to, and a friend that's going to be there, and someone they can call on in a pinch.
Okay. Well, you've said a lot of things that might be where someone might want to begin to contact you all. And so is there a website or a phone number that if there's a youth out there or a parent who needs to make that interaction or contact with the Youth for Christ, is there something that you might be able to give us, a contact method?
To find out a little bit about Youth for Christ, you could go to yfcdetroit.org. And that's our website, yfcdetroit.org. YFC is Youth for Christ. And my phone number is 313-310-3946.
All right, and we've got those up on the screen, so hopefully we'll get a chance to put those up again a little bit later on. Now, some of the other things that you've talked about were helping teens, and are there teens that you've seen grow up who are now helping others? Has this become generational?
Yes, it's sort of exciting to see what God does in people's lives. Just before I go into that, people have asked sometimes, how can you be involved in this work for this long and not be heartbroken? And I said, well, the same way, I can't take credit for the kids that have done really great, and there's a lot of them, and I can't take credit for the kids that have made some poor decisions. But what I can be is faithful, and I can be there for both and try to encourage and try to point them to others that can help them along their life paths. But we've got young people that have gone into ministry full-time, young people that are serving the police department in Detroit currently, young people that are teachers in colleges. Lisa is in Europe today working on her doctorate degree. You're just lots and lots. You know, I said I started with working with troubled teens.
Yes.
But some transitions happened years ago where that troubled aspect that I was so focused on, there were so many great kids in the city, and when you only look at the troubled teens, you're missing the other 95% of the young people that have got potential and are great and are doing pretty well, but they could use some boosts and some encouragements.
Okay. So along those same notes, I mean, we're mentioning youth who are from, you know, primarily being focused in the Detroit area. Here in the Orion area, is there a local chapter of some sort for the Youth for Christ? Or where would the closest be?
Our charter with Youth for Christ National is Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. But we don't have the staff to reach out, so we depend on volunteers and we depend on others who carry some of the same vision that we have, so that we can partner and team up and work together. But because we find that young people everywhere could just use that encouragement.
Gotcha. So to create a chapter in the area, in case there's some person who you know, God puts this on their heart, what would be required to create a chapter here locally?
Well, if it's a volunteer chapter, just some training, the supervision, and just going through the process of that educational process of how we're going to actually get together. I love to have teams of people from the community who are our steering committees that give some guidance, because each community has different aspects of felt needs and some of the needs that young people have. So they need to work together and come up with a plan. You certainly want cooperation and partnerships with local churches as well as other community groups. So those would be some of the base plans to lay your strategy out.
Okay. And over time, like everyone, I'm quite sure you've had certain scriptures that might stay on your heart. Is there one that you could kind of share with us?
Yeah, point? I love Jeremiah 29:11. The Lord says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They're plans for good and not for evil. They're plans to give you a future and a hope."
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. So as we sit here and we kind of you know, learned a little bit about Youth for Christ. We've learned how you were involved with the organization. We've learned about the kids that you've helped, not only from the Detroit area, but also it's anyone from the surrounding communities, Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties, and the possibilities of having a local chapter here if there's someone who's willing to reach out to the youth in the local area. So I guess I sum that up because I want to say that if you had your druthers, is it possible that there's someone sitting out there tonight, some child, that just would need someone like you? And if you could reach out and say something to them, what would you say to them if they were sitting in front of you?
Well, first of all, they're very valuable. They have got worth that goes beyond probably their wildest imagination. And because of that, they do have purpose, and they just need to get connected to that. And I really believe that our Creator has designed us with a purpose, and it's just our privilege to be able to introduce them to some of the teachings that are in the scriptures that have been there for thousands of years, that can connect them to some purpose in life.
Fantastic. Well, Dale, I wanted to thank you for coming here to Orion today. You've been a fantastic guest. I want to tell you guys to stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
It's Ladies' Night Out at the Orion Center on Friday, November 15th from 6 to 9 p.m. The Orion Area Chamber of Commerce will once again partner with Orion Township to offer a night of ladies-only fun. Over 40 vendors will offer a little something for everyone, including tasty treats and multiple wine tasting stations. There will also be raffle prizes and demonstrations, and Tim McGraw tribute artist Alan Scott will provide live entertainment. Round up a group of your BFFs and register today. The first 100 women through the door will receive a free gift bag. That's Ladies' Night Out at the Orion Center, Friday, November 15th. Call 248-391-0304, extension 305 to register today, or visit orionareachamber.com for more information.
Well, welcome back. We're here today with Lisa Dwyer, and we're going to talk about hunting, specifically deer hunting in the state of Michigan. So welcome, Lisa. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks so much, Wally. I appreciate it.
Well, you brought a lot of interesting things here.
Well, I'd like to touch base a little bit about, the whole circle on, why people like to hunt, how many people hunt, what the deer eat, what you can do with the food and the meat. So I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, good. That sounds good. So where do we start here? What's the first thing that we
the first thing that I think that we should discuss is we have to respect everybody's wishes about hunting, right? Some people are activists, and they and then there's other people who, I don't know. I guess you have to respect the people that like hunting and the people who do not like hunting, right? And the people that are against it. So I do respect everybody. However, I am a hunter, and I love to hunt, and I know you are as well.
Yes.
Just some great facts. Just in the United States, the sports hunting specifically, sportsmen contribute nearly $8 million every single day. That's $29 billion yearly for conservation. I mean, that's a lot of money. So hunting brings a lot of money to our state and to the United States.
That's true. And something that you don't hear about sometimes is the fact that a lot of food is donated to a lot of the food shelters from hunters.
Yes.
So that's a big plus that the
that
public
is
doesn't
true.
hear.
Actually, there's a couple websites that we can share. Harvest Sharing is one, and I have some statistics here on that. And you can share your food. A lot of hunters don't even like the meat. Do you know that?
Yes.
You know.
I do know.
I love the
do.
venison. There's so many ways to do it and cook it and prepare it. But 2.8 million pounds of venison last year, the Harvest Sharing gave to churches, food banks, kitchens, shelters, and they served 11 million meals.
Yeah, that's a lot of food.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Thank God for that.
And think about the crop damage that the deer do, the overpopulation, and these are some of the things that some of the activists don't really get into. But bottom line is sometimes the herds really get wild and over.
Then you hear about horrible accidents.
Deer accidents. Crop damage. So there's a lot of involvement there.
Right. Well, and I love the idea that the churches and shelters allow people to bring in the food.
Exactly.
The venison. I think that's amazing. Hunting also is pretty big business in America.
Yes, it is.
The last statistics I seen online were 2011. Hunting in America generated 600,000 jobs. That's a lot of employment. Yes. Yes. I mean, I live. I'm fortunate to live in this area, and I have a little bit of property, but I have state land right behind me, and it's amazing. I love to be out there and just be with the wildlife, and it's very calming. I have a pretty hectic life, as do most people. So when I'm in the woods, it's very relaxing to me. It's nice. Have you hunted yet this year?
Not this year. Yet. But tell me, do you ever go into a tree stand?
I do. I'm not fond of it. I have a really nice stand on the ground.
Well, speaking of that, I got to get into...
get in the mode, Wally. Come on.
Although, Lisa, pink...
I'm sorry. It's all I...
It's all right. It's all right. Oh, it's okay.
That's all I had. Well, let's talk about safety. Isn't safety so important?
A big one. Now, if you're underage,
you're
let's
required
to take a class before you can go deer hunting, isn't that right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so
yes.
Yeah,
and there's youth hunts.
There's youth hunts.
Where you can get out there before all the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, Well, I want to tell you, some of the top things for hunter safety is, the first one is always keep the muzzle, pointed in a safe direction. You don't want to hold your gun when people are walking in front of you. How do you hold your gun when you're walking through the woods?
Lisa, I've got a lot of stories I could tell you about holding guns. I've got friends who've put a 30-06 through an engine block in the car when they're loading the car and hit a bump and the gun goes off. Very, very dangerous. Never want to hunt with somebody like that again. Safety, it only takes one time. In Texas, a friend of mine, a teacher, this isn't a funny story, but he was in the back of a pickup. His dog was jumping around. His dog got his paw into the trigger guard, pulled the trigger, and shot him in the leg.
Oh my gosh.
There's all kinds of stories out there.
Wow.
So,
it's so important.
Safety is number one.
It is number one.
You do not want to turn a hunting trip into a tragedy.
And firearms should always be unloaded when they're not in use.
Unloaded.
That's true.
Always point in the right direction.
Don't rely on your gun's safety.
Don't rely on your friends. Always assume the gun's loaded.
Right.
Just don't play with that.
Don't trust, huh?
No, serious.
Be sure of your target and what's beyond it. Right?
Yes.
I lived last year. Someone was hunting and it went through my neighbor's window.
Oh yeah.
Didn't realize. Just out of the woods was a house.
Lady in Gaylord was wearing a brown bathrobe. I was shot at. They thought she was a deer. No.
In the woods? Why was she in the woods with a brown bathrobe?
No, she wasn't. No, her house backed up to state land. No, she was. No, house. Okay. No.
What was she
wasn't
doing?
Her house backed up to state land. Bullets, they'll go they can go miles and miles.
Well, I'm sure the guy didn't see her in the robe.
Well, according to him, he's up in the tree, saw something move, and he shot.
With a scope, apparently.
Had a scope.
Yeah.
They brought him up on charges, too.
Yeah, because that's a little fishy to me. I don't know about that.
Could have been
Use
an
correct
ex-wife.
That's funny. Use correct ammunition. Let's talk about ammunition a little bit. We brought a couple little things.
Yeah, there's such a thing called overkill, too. Using like a 7mm for a deer is more of an overkill. I noticed you brought some slugs, and since we're in the lower part of Michigan, you're required to use a shotgun slug. Which, you explain it.
You're awesome. Go ahead. Go ahead. He's been hunting since he was 14.
I have.
He's a veteran hunter. Go ahead.
There's, instead of pellets in here, you actually have like a lead slug that goes at the deer, and that's just bullets travel so far, and the slugs don't go as far. Since we're down here, it's more of a populace, than they're using that type of thing down in the lower part of Michigan.
Right.
Yeah.
And the three most popular guns for hunting are what?
Oh no, this is your
I would
show.
say rifle. I mean, this is opinion. A rifle, shotgun, muzzleloader.
Muzzleloaders,
yeah. Yeah, and there's certain seasons.
And you're good with all that. You told me you had a muzzleloader.
Yeah. I've got a couple. I got a couple guns.
Do you?
And it's exciting. And you? What do you shoot with?
Several across. Well, since Michigan recently allowed us to do a crossbow.
Yeah. Look at this little mini guy. Isn't that great?
I was quizzing you on this. I've never seen anything this small.
Yeah. I should have brought some of the arrows. They're about that big. They're nice. It's quick.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So I didn't want to bring all the big artillery today. So.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. So we'll finish up on safety, right? Use correct ammunition. If your gun fails to fire when the trigger is pulled, what do?
Well, you assume that it could fire again. So first thing you do, if you can't clear it, then you put the hammer down and you just set that thing aside until somebody knows what they're doing and clear that shell. If you don't feel confident enough to do it yourself, but make sure that muzzle lower is pointed in a good direction.
Right. And always make sure your barrel is clear of obstructions.
Barrel's got to be clear. You got to keep that gun nice and clean.
Yeah. Don't alter or modify your gun, right? Have gun service regularly. And modifying it, we're talking about, amping it up, putting a different kind of,
trigger on it.
Trigger.
The 3-spurt.
Yeah. I mean, my guns, and I don't know if you use scopes. I use scopes. I have, sights. I have, bells and whistles. So my accuracy is correct.
Oh, yeah.
and learn the mechanical and handling characteristics of your firearm, right? That's pretty important. Talk a little bit about cleaning your gun and how that's important.
Well, you know, when I was brought up, we were taught to, before you can even shoot the gun, you should be able to dismantle it and put it back together. You should be able to break it apart, know how to clean it before you even put a shell in it. That's just how we were brought up. You know the gun way before you take it out into the woods. Now cleaning it, like you said, you gotta make sure there's not obstructions in there. Every time you shoot, you're gonna have a lot of lead build up in the barrel, and that can affect, accuracy, can affect corrosion of the metal. So there's a lot of things. You just gotta take care of it. It's gotta be your baby when you have a gun.
That's right.
And I see you have a very nice cleaning. You got deluxe universal gun, because you can clean, shoot, you can clean everything from a gun to a fish with this thing. A lot of nice things in here.
I'm pretty blessed. My uncle is a gun sharpshooter. He's won many trophies, and he's in ski. I mean, he's huge into that. So I don't really have to do it. He always does mine.
Well, that's
for me.
nice too.
So I don't have to get dirty. I just have the fun.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your bow hunting and some of the foods that you brought in.
Well, I'll tell you. Arrows, and you know there are so many, just like guns and bullets, there are so many different kinds of arrows.
Yes.
And broadheads and the dynamics and what they're made of, right?
Oh, I brought up wood. You have a carbon, so that's nice, light and fast.
It is nice and light
and straight too. So
well,
excellent.
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
Right.
And these are some of the things you feed the deer to.
Yeah. I want to just touch base real quick on the tracers. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have.
You can, I don't know, I guess the best way to describe it is when it gets a little bit darker, right? When you're at dusk and you are getting ready to shoot or shooting, you get visible arrow flight.
Yes.
So you can see exactly. Now, have you seen the ones where you can tie the string?
Yes, I've seen those.
I've had that in Gladwin.
I do have a question for you. Where's the best place to hit the deer that you aim for?
Right in the heart.
Which is?
Right middle above the chest right here. On the deer. Is there a picture of the deer? Right about there. Right behind the shoulder.
Excellent, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
A lot of times the gun goes off, the deer will jump up off 4 feet too.
Yeah.
So
only one time did I get lucky and where one just died right there. All the rest run.
Yeah. And you got to go track them down, pull them out the woods,
track
don't you?
them down. Yell for help.
Yell for help. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're fortunate here in this area because there's a lot. I mean, we're fortunate. The farmers, however, are not as fortunate because the deer eat their vegetation and so forth. But we can feed the deer in our own way. We may not have a farm, right? So let's talk about the different kinds of
the baits and things?
Yeah, the food. We have sugar beets, right?
These sugar beets, that's the sugar beet.
Sugar beet, carrots, of course.
Carrots, apple, and
corn
seeds.
Yeah,
here.
corn.
Yeah,
so
that's excellent.
Yeah, that's most popular for me. I mean, we have a lot of apple trees. Apples this year are just wonderful. Our trees are so many apples, they're just like almost on the ground.
Yeah. Last year wasn't that good, was it?
Last year was horrible because we had the frost, remember?
Did, yeah,
it was beautiful in March and then we had a frost and then everything died.
Everything died, yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about how it helps the economy. We talked about safety, which I think are two pretty important things.
We did. We covered a lot of nice
food,
things.
Yeah. I definitely want you to shop local, right? Shop local to get your food and bait in Lake Orion here.
You know what? You've done a lot of things. We have to wrap it up a little bit. We're running out of time.
Okay,
so
great.
I'd like to thank you for being here, Lisa. You gave us a lot of really great information.
Thank you. It's so fun. I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
Thanks, Wally.
It's really great having you here, and thank you. So I can say thank you. You covered
You're
a lot
welcome.
of nice things here.
Thank you.
We're going to close it down, so good. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Happy hunting.
Happy hunting.